Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Flavor and Fiction. So for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, Flavor and Fiction is a segment where I choose a book from my 2020 reading list. And not only do I give a review / summary of the book, but without spoilers, but I also choose a food item from the book, and then I show you how to make a recipe using that food item. So you got the flavor and the fiction. So the category this time was a book by an author you're just hearing about. And I chose, and I'm going to put the picture up here because the last time I tried to show it to you on my Kindle, which is where I read it, all you saw was glare. So here's the picture, and I'm going to put the author name big here because I cannot pronounce it correctly. I'm going to try. Okay, is it Tsitsi Dangarembga? I'm hoping that I'm not butchering that. This was an amazing book. And I chose it like at random. I think I maybe found it on like a BuzzFeed books list or something. I'm not sure how I heard about it, but it was amazing. It was a great read. So because I don't want to do too many spoilers, because this is the kind of book where the whole magic of it is seeing where the character goes. Like, it's not like you're waiting for one big punch or anything, but you're following her. And so I don't want to ruin anything. But I will say this about it. The main character is Tsitsi. I hope I'm saying that correctly as well. Goes by Tambu. And she lives in Zimbabwe, and the country is still reeling from the war. There's still a lot of things in flux because of the war. Tambu personally was not involved in the war because, unlike so many others, she received an opportunity to go away for education. Her uncle paid for her to go to school. She went to like a private school, and then she went to college. She has a degree. And at this point, she is maybe around 40. They don't say exactly. She has no husband, no kids, no job, and she's living at a hostel, a women's hostel. And that's where the book opens up. And so it's the kind of book where it gives you an overview of where she is, and then gives you little hints and drops of clues, so you can piece together how she got there and figure out where this is going. So it starts out a little abstract, and you wonder like, okay, what's going on here? But it's worth it. Stick with it. It's worth it. One thing I appreciated is the fact that it's written in second person, which is hardly done anymore. Everything's in first or third person, and it was refreshing to read something in second person. To make it feel like it's putting you in the character's place and you really identify. I mean, I have nothing in common with this woman as far as like the events that have happened to her. But you feel, or at least I felt, a closeness with some of her thoughts and feelings. And I honestly feel like, give it anyone's situation, you will feel close to her. So Tambu is living in this kind of state where she is not successful in any definition of the word to her. And she feels guilty for not being successful because she escaped the war, so she thinks, and was given this opportunity for education, and she feels like she's squandering it. She had a good job, but one of her boss there, who was a white woman, because there are, Europeans who are kind of taking over certain businesses in African countries. That's just a whole nother topic. I can't. She felt like she was doing all this work and that her European boss was getting credit for it. And she felt really, she stood her ground, and she quit that job and was like, I'm not going to put up with this. And then she hasn't been able to find a job since. So she's feeling guilty for quitting that job out of indignation, and she's not able to send anything back to her home, which is what, I mean, to her village, to her parents, and she feels like a failure. And she hasn't been back home, and she doesn't want to go home until she has something to show. Look at me, look what I've done. Look how all this hard work paid off. She's too ashamed to go home. So she ends up, after pretty much having a nervous breakdown, and that's not a spoiler, by the way, trust me, there's so much more. She ends up moving in with a family member and her family, and she gets a job teaching at a school in biology, which is not anywhere near her subject, but because she has a degree, it's finally getting her somewhere. So she gets excited. She's maintaining. She's like, okay, I have all these plans I'm going to save, I'm going to advance, I'm going to do this and that, and then I'll go home. Well, not so fast. Some events happen at the school, and she's unable to continue. We'll just leave it like that. And I'm not going to give any more about the summary because it will ruin it. But we'll talk about the themes of the book. So one of the themes I already touched on, which is how she handled herself at work. And it really brought to mind how certain people have to feel like they have to choose between acting a certain way at work to get by and to get advanced, to get noticed, and being themselves culturally, and how sometimes those two things butt heads and you're not sure which way to go. You don't want to end up like her, jobless because you stood on a principle, but then you also don't want to be walked all over every day, and how that really, it really played a part in her mindset and the way she viewed herself. Also, it really resonated with me as an older millennial. I feel like people in my age range are kind of caught between this world of like, yes, you must go get education in order to be successful. And we're kind of stuck in that place now where it's like, okay, we have these degrees and this crippling student debt, but where are the jobs? Well, now people are creating their own jobs. But for those of us that were sort of trained to approach things in a different way, you're kind of stuck. We all want to be successful, and we feel like we have followed the recipe that was given to us to be successful. But when you're not, it makes you feel guilty and restless, and you don't know whether you're going or coming, and it's hard to pull yourself out of that. So I really felt connected to her on that end. It also really touched on like the tourism industry in other countries. And I have such mixed feelings when it comes to this. Because especially when it comes to safaris, I've never been on a safari. The thought of it, like it's glamorous. And I love the thought of like being out there in nature and seeing the animals and all this and that. But when you think about certain countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe, Botswana, I believe, Namibia, these countries that have tourism industries built by Europeans who are basically making their money off of Africans, it leaves like a nasty taste in your mouth to even talk about it. You're kind of torn between wanting to participate and hating the thought of exploiting anyone or putting money in certain people's pockets when they are exploiting others. So it touches a lot on that, and the mindset of someone who is trying to decide how they feel or glaze over how they feel because deep down they know. So this is really a journey for Tambu to figure out who she is, because when you hold on so tight trying to be perfect or trying to do things right, you end up imploding. You have to let go of certain expectations of yourself and of other people, whether it's family, friends, coworkers. You have to let go of certain expectations if you want to succeed. And I feel like that was a really big lesson that anyone can take away from this. I really enjoyed this book. And just when it was an easy read, but not in the way you think. It touched on a lot of heavy things, but it would just skim and then it would ebb and flow. So it's not like you were weighed down constantly by this one thing. It would come in a wave and then it would go out and come back in. So it would give you a little hint as to what was coming and what she's feeling, but it didn't make the book so heavy that it was hard to get through. Because, you know, some books that have heavy topics like child abuse or rape or, you know, this or that, you have to put it down and walk away. You don't have to put this down. It was a great read. I think it took me maybe 5 days picking it up, putting it down to read. It's worth it. I got it on my Kindle because I've been too afraid to like order books to the house. Like I'm trying not to have too many packages come to the house during this whole pandemic, but it's worth it. And now that we have talked about the book, you're probably wondering, well, what is the special ingredient and what is the recipe we're going to be making? Well, one of the foods mentioned was chicken wings that were served as a snack to someone. And I thought, this would be the perfect opportunity to use my sister's air fryer, which I've never used before, but she's made it, to make chicken wings. And I'll put a picture up here about, you know, to show you what they're supposed to look like. We're going to be doing lemon pepper wings. And I'm making them at her place tonight. We live like next door to each other, so we've been sort of quarantining together. So I'll put the recipe for this down below in the description. Okay, so I'm popping in here to let you know about a little change of plans. Yesterday, I went to my sister's house. We were gonna make the wings, but then we got caught up watching RuPaul's Drag Race and we never made the wings. But she made them tonight and she sent me a video of her making them from her iPhone to my Galaxy. So it's a little grainy, but I'm just gonna do a voiceover over the video to let you know what she's doing. So here we go. Okay, the first thing you wanna do is wash your chicken. Don't argue with me, wash the chicken. Then you wanna have your plastic bag, a huge bag that you dump your oil into, and then your lemon pepper seasoning, as my sister's doing here. Then you wanna take your washed chicken, I repeat, your washed wingettes, drop them into the bag. Then you want to apparently shake them and beat them like they owe you money. Just shake them up real good so all the seasoning can coat each wingette. And here is the air fryer. You want to line it if you can to help with cleanup afterwards. And then you just line it with the chicken, with the wingettes, the cleaned, seasoned chicken. There it is. And here we go. So you set it at 380 for 10 minutes, as you see my sister doing here. And it's going to sound and look like a spaceship. After 10 minutes, you want to flip each wing to the other side. They're already starting to look good. And put them back in. You're going to put it back to the same temperature and the same time. 380 for 10 minutes. And here's the finished product. And it looks and tastes so good. Thank you so much, Michelle. So be sure to check out this book. Be sure to check out the recipe. And thanks for joining me for another episode of Flavor and Fiction.